From WisPolitics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Mayers from WisPolitics.com, here with a special and longer edition of Capital Chats brought to you by Spectrum. Well, it's RNC week, the conclusion of RNC week, so we thought we'd gather some friends of mine who have covered this convention and covered other conventions to talk about what they thought about what happened here and what lies ahead. And it's a heck of a week, I guess, if you start from Saturday at what happened in Pennsylvania and now to now, and then what goes forward. It's a unique time, I think, in our political history. But I guess I just want to start with Milwaukee. Milwaukee's hosting its first major party convention. The Democratic one didn't really count, let's face it, because of COVID times, and most of that happened in Delaware. And so I'm just wondering, hey folks, how did Milwaukee and the convention go from your standpoint? Was it as well run as Republicans claim? Let's start with you, Lou.
Yeah, so this is my 14th convention that I've covered, going back to 1988. So I've seen a lot of them. First, let me talk about the city, then I'll talk about the convention and the logistics of the convention. So the city, I thought, came across really well. It reminded me a lot of 2016 when the Republicans went to Cleveland. I hadn't been to Cleveland in years. I've not been to Milwaukee in 25 years prior to this. But basically everybody, despite all the sort of hullabaloo over Trump being the nominee in 2016, all the media folks that I talked to said, we really liked Cleveland. And I really feel the same way about Milwaukee. I think that the sort of mix of, restaurants and the sort of just feel of the place, it came across very positively. I think part of that too is the second thing I was going to talk about, which is the way that the convention itself kind of was, run logistically. It was one of the best in terms of the structure. Now, it was kind of a pain to walk, a few blocks out of the way to get into into an entrance or an exit. But that's always the case. And I really feel like the proximity of the Fiserv Center and the Panther Arena and Baird was great. Just first off, I mean, it's brand new, I guess, and it's big. It's very welcoming. I spent a lot of time there. Often, like, even though they had like media stuff set up, there's a cavernous hall with a filing center and stuff. I just was able to sit on the couches or whatever, charge my phone and laptop, and it was just like very comfortable to be there. And having those three areas sort of bang, 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 right each next to each other, it really made things convenient because as a journalist, you had a media space, you had the floor space, and few conventions really pull that off. I think San Diego Convention in '96 for the GOP pulled that off, and there was like a nice little restaurant district right outside the gates. But here, I went to probably 4 or 5 different events during the day where there were speakers or panels, and all you had to do was just leave the gate, walk a few blocks at most, and you were there. There were just like a lot of venues that were very much within walking distance. You got some exercise, and that's fine. But I just thought in general that it was very well put together. The security was pretty easy from my perspective to get through. I never had to wait more than a couple minutes, and frequently I would just sail right through the metal detectors and so forth. So I give the city a thumbs up, and I give the Republicans a thumbs up. Also, inside the Fiserv Center, it was very easy to get down to the floor. You didn't have a lot of just sort of logistical headaches inside, and that can be a problem in the past. So I give him a thumbs up on both counts.
Well, I didn't give Lou a proper introduction, and he's such a good friend. I thought everybody knows who Lou is. Anyway, Lou writes for U.S. News, PolitiFact, and Sabato's Crystal Ball, among other things, and he's a veteran journalist based in D.C. Now I want to go to Taurean Small. Taurean used to cover the Wisconsin congressional delegation for Spectrum News, and now he's a national correspondent with CBS News. and happens to be joining us from Grand Rapids today, and we'll get to why that is later. But anyway, Taurean, what was your view of how Milwaukee and Republicans pulled off this convention?
I think Lou said it best. This is really the perfect venue for the return to an in-person convention for a political party. And I think Republicans masterfully used that space. I think the Deer District is the perfect landing spot for a lot of the activities, the gatherings, and it created a very different environment. I remember covering the 2016 convention in Cleveland. There was a lot of walking, and the highlight was the arena. But I think spreading it out between the Baird, the Pfizer Forum, and having a place for, I think they had like I call it bags, but the game where you toss the bean bags into the holes there.
Cornhole.
Cornhole, yeah, right.
Yes. Having that outside with different vendors and tents as if it was like a fairground to get fried foods, and other local vendors were great. The party also utilized a lot of the restaurants or venues, not necessarily inside the perimeter as well. I attended a few events held by ancillary groups or by some political action committees who had mixers or events to honor some of the delegates. And one was at the Iron Horse, and they had this beautiful outdoor space where they were able to give this presentation. So I think the city really had an opportunity to show its best. And I think Mayor Cavalier Johnson would also agree that he thought the party utilized, despite being from a different party, utilized the city well. And I attended a couple of his morning briefings, and he said he had a conversation, a phone call with Donald Trump Monday evening, and Trump was very complimentary about the city. But yeah, no, I think every person who attended would give the city shining marks.
Yeah, in fact, I only regret that the Democrats couldn't have had it 4 years ago. We would have had two of these.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go to Kate Morton. Kate Morton is a WisPolitics reporter who populated our convention corridor page, which will be active again for the Democratic National Convention. So, Kate, how do you think it came off? The convention came off from your point of view?
Yeah, well, I guess just a little disclaimer, it was a first convention for me, so it was a new experience, but I think things went pretty well, you know. I wasn't too sure about how the security was going to be, you know, following the attempted assassination over the weekend. I was thinking maybe that might be ramped up in some way. I think it might have been a little bit, but you know, I didn't have any issues with that. Things went pretty smoothly, you know, just speaking with some of the Republicans in the delegation and, you know, representatives, I think they were really excited about generally, you know, getting to show off Wisconsin and Milwaukee. Um, I think they were happy with it. I think, you know, things were relatively easy to find. For media, you know, we had our Wisconsin Media Row, which was really nice. People were kind of popping through there from now and then to chat with us. Um, yeah, I would agree with Torian and Lou that it went pretty well.
All right, well, let's get into some of the news, the post-convention news, and then we'll sort of backtrack a little bit. So, Torian, you're in Grand Rapids, and that's because
This will be the venue for the first joint rally with the Republican presidential nominee and the Republican vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. They're going to be here Saturday. And as we know, as we've been covering, Trump is looking to flip some of those crucial battleground states that went for Biden in 2020 after it flipped for Trump in 2016. So they're making a concerted effort to get Michigan, to get Wisconsin, to get Pennsylvania, you know, these crucial states to go back.
right. So, do you know why Michigan, and you know, why did they pick Grand Rapids first?
I think you could probably get clues from JD Vance's acceptance speech. He mentioned or invoked the Midwest quite a bit and talked about the importance of voters' voices in places like Wisconsin and Michigan. So it's no coincidence in my mind that the former president, went with a guy like JD Vance, despite he had a pretty impressive short list, because he's not only from the Midwest. He's from Ohio. He's not only, a relatively famous individual with his memoir that, of course, became a movie, Hillbilly Elegy. Also, impressive in terms of his career, the fact that he served in the Marines. But he also is young, and he's 39, I believe. And especially as people are calling for young blood or fresh blood to take a spot or center stage in these political parties, it makes sense that JD Vance would be the guy.
Right.
One further.
Go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, one further thing I would add about Grand Rapids is it's in Kent County, which is a very crucial county in the state of Michigan. It's in the western part of the state. It's been historically Republican, but historically a lot of Republicans who are kind of Chamber of Commerce, fiscal conservatives, but not necessarily social conservatives. And of course, there are some social conservatives there for sure. But what this has meant in the Trump era, Democrats have been increasingly becoming getting more votes from those sort of middle of the road Republicans, and there's a lot of those in Kent County. It was one of 15 counties that I wrote about. I chose 15 for U.S. News, sort of battleground counties to watch. Along with in Michigan, I chose Waukesha and Brown County, Green Bay, so it totally makes sense because Democrats won the congressional race last time 2 years ago. Joe Biden flipped the county in 2020. So this is something that the Trump team is surely angling, trying to get it back for the GOP.
Yeah, and Gerald Ford used to represent Grand Rapids, and it's a different kind of republicanism, I think, than maybe even in the collar counties around Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then Vice President Harris is coming back to the state. She's coming to Milwaukee on Tuesday. I just think this whole thing that you got two conventions, one in Milwaukee, one in Chicago. You got the visits on the heels of the Republican convention are in the Great Lakes, the upper Midwest. It's Hillary's blue wall all over again. It just seems like this is they're fighting over the Midwest. This seems to be the key for the election. Is that kind of the things you heard, Kate, from folks that you were talking to?
Yeah, definitely. Speaking to people in the Wisconsin delegation, they really understood the importance of the area. They saw that in the pick of JD Vance from Ohio as the VP pick. I guess I would say, they were saying a lot about, in Wisconsin, how close it's going to be and how crucial of a state it is, and even being a state where it's going to basically decide the presidential election. So that's something that definitely was on a lot of people's minds and kind of one of the themes of the convention. And yeah.
Well, we like to see ourselves as the center of the political universe, of course, but there are these other blue wall states, I guess, that we'll have to share a little bit of fame or infamy with all of them. Okay, well, we can't ignore hanging over this convention was the assassination attempt on Trump, which instantly unified the convention, and at the same time, Democrats are in a 3-week examination of who their nominee should be. So it's sort of like I think this gave Republicans, to me, this overwhelming sense of confidence that we got this one. Lou, were you feeling that? And I guess what's the danger in that?
Yeah, I definitely felt that. I mean, right through the first 20 minutes of Donald Trump's acceptance speech, the mood that I got was one of optimism, about winning and unity over the ticket. Now, obviously, the party had a lot of splits before it got here, but in the primary and just in recent years in general between Trump backers and non-Trump backers. But at the convention, it was his show. He chose the people and the agenda for what they were going to show on TV. It was a palpable sense of unity, more and sort of excitement, more than in most past conventions, I think. I
Do you
say
think
the first yeah.
did you sense that from the Haley people as well? I mean, because
They're not here for the most part. I just think that if you were named a delegate, you're a sort of never die Trumper. So they would be definitely enthused, and I think you know Democrats will certainly pick apart things that the GOP did at the convention that they think are helpful to them. But my impression was that from the podium, the message that got out more often than not was sort of articulating issues where swing voters could perhaps. I mean, Trump is obviously a very polarizing character, so they may have problems with Trump, but I think on the policy issues, they sort of stayed away from things like abortion, which Democrats think is going to be an issue which will help them, and they focused more on the economy, where the polls show people are really down on the economy, even though the statistics are quite good. So I think, and then also immigration. Obviously, a lot of Democrats are not going to be moved by that as an issue, but I think that for swing voters, it has some salience. And I thought that their message discipline was quite good up until the final hour of his speech, basically. The first 20 minutes.
He can't go unscripted. He can't go
Exactly.
scripted for too long, right?
Right. Well, from where I was sitting, I was kind of behind the podium, and you could see there's a big screen as the teleprompter words scroll. So it's right in front of the speaker. They can see it, in addition to the two teleprompters on the side. It's the same text. But like that thing would scroll for like, a paragraph, and then it would stay there because he would ad lib 5 more minutes in between. And then finally he would get to his next statement that was actually planned in the speech. So I thought the first 20 minutes were quite striking, where he talked about getting shot at. And it was really an unusual thing to see him so low key, quiet, kind of contemplative, reflective. He just sounded like a different person. And the arena was just like really hushed. So I found that very, very dramatic and very unusual for him, because he is such a hot character when he's speaking. But then after about 20 minutes of that, he launched into this long ad lib that sounded a lot like a rally speech, which was geared that he's used to giving, and it seems geared towards his sort of strong supporters, as opposed to reaching out. He could have focused on certain issues that had appealed to swing voters and not get so much into the grievances about his prosecutions and so forth, which I think turns off a lot of potential swing voters. And it was just very long. I couldn't imagine how long. I think it's the record now for the longest.
Yeah, the record at least since 1952 or something. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and so I was really surprised that that's the direction that he went. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, because it's what he used to. But that, I think, gave Democrats an opening. If people were watching it, and so much about political discourse these days is like bite-sized, shareable video clips, and you could certainly put together a compilation of that in which he shows some appeal for more swing voters. But it really is a choose your own adventure kind of thing, because you could do that, but also you could put together a lot of stuff in which he seems a little bit more, unhinged. So I think Democrats came away, like, before, until that pivot in the speech, I think Democrats were like really concerned. It seems like I'm speculating here a little bit, but I guess if I was them, I would feel a little bit concerned about how well the convention went. But I think that the end of the speech gave them some comfort that, well, maybe we can beat this guy. And they've got their own, you know, like decision to make about Biden, or Biden has a decision to make, I guess. And that was just a whole nother running theme through all the coverage. I mean, we're not just covering what was taking place with the Republicans,
Right.
also was taking place. Every few minutes I would get a news alert about some other Democrat calling for Joe Biden to step down, or Nancy Pelosi going to meet with him or whatever. And so it was weird in that way because so much was happening. It was like a split screen moment.
Mm. Now, Corian, what do you think of the RNC's attempt to go after some of these swing voters, or to broaden the tent? They have the Teamsters president speaking. They were trying to soften the image of Trump. What kind of, do you think that has legs outside the convention?
Well, on the Teamsters president's speech, I don't necessarily think Republicans were expecting him to essentially use that platform to slam both parties and to center the priorities of union members. Historically, like the president mentioned, Democrats have been more welcoming, but as he put it now, Teamsters don't necessarily belong to a political party, and some of the broken or unkept promises, it could be an issue for them moving forward. But I do think the strategy of maybe a last minute pivot in light of the shooting, to softening the rhetoric around the speakers this week was helpful to their mission to try to welcome back some folks to the party who might have been turned off by Donald Trump after 2020. Nikki Haley speaking was an interesting call. What's interesting, I talked to Governor Asa Hutchinson while he was just in the hallways, walking ahead of her speech. And he commended Donald Trump for inviting her to speak. But when I pressed him on if he's going to endorse the former president, because we had all anticipated that that's exactly what Nikki Haley would do. He said he's not there yet because he still has issues with Trump's character. And I think a lot of Republican defectors are still at that same place. I don't think the assassination attempt really changed minds. And after listening to a 90-minute speech from the former president, I don't believe that that was very effective in changing those minds again. But Nikki Haley is she was never a never Trump Republican. Their relationship obviously soured because she stayed in the race for as long as she did. But as Chris Christie, I think that would have been an interesting person to invite to the convention. I doubt he would have showed up. But as he mentioned, during the hot mic leak situation, he saw Nikki Haley as more of a transactional politician. So I think the opportunity for her to get the spotlight and attention and potentially a warmer welcome to the party for maybe future purposes was probably the motivation behind her accepting of the opportunity to speak at the rally. Or at this, well, it is a rally, of course, but at the convention.
Yeah. So, Kate, I want to go to some of the things that you reported about the overconfidence factor. I think there were a number of Wisconsin Republicans, at any rate, were saying, "Hey, folks, now take it easy. It's still just convention time." What were some of the messages from those folks?
Yeah, so Brian Schimming, our state GOP chair, he spoke a little bit at their last delegation breakfast about this. He was kind of citing some of the new Emerson polling that's encouraging in battleground states and, the issues within the Democratic Party about Joe Biden's viability as a candidate. And he was trying to make it clear, I don't want to hear anyone saying that like this is a done deal for us or that, we can take the pedal off the metal type of thing. I think he actually said, I'm gonna have to take you over to like Frederick Hospital to get my foot removed from your behind if I hear anything like that. Um, so, I spoke to Scott Fitzgerald on the floor as well yesterday, and I was asking about the overconfidence issue, and he was saying, they kind of had that issue last time around with the House elections. They were thinking there was going to be this massive red wave, and it kind of didn't reach that potential. So, what I've been hearing from everybody is, regardless of what the polling shows or what Democrats are doing, we really need to be focused and, trying to get out the vote as much as possible, especially because, Wisconsin is always kind of a nail biter state. So, yeah.
Right. I think I heard that from several people. Hey, I think Scott Walker, the former governor, said that, hey, we have close elections. We're going to have close elections. I think Robin Vos, the Assembly Speaker, I think his quote was something along the same lines. Hey, whatever's happening, it's going to be a close election. What going back to Taurean said, what minds were really changed by the events of this week. I mean, it's a small sliver of the electorate that potentially will win these blue wall states. I think Reince Priebus, the former RNC chair and state Republican chair, said it's going to be 40,000 votes that are going to decide this election. And those people aren't normally paying attention always to what's going on, right? And like we are, but we're sick, political minded people, right? So, but so I guess I wonder where do we go from here? Is this are we going to look back on this week and say this was the pivotal week of the campaign? This is where it all happened, or is there so much more to come? We just don't know. Lou?
Yeah, I mean, my guess is there's more to come just because past is probably prologue. I mean, there have been so many twists and turns in this crazy campaign. This is now the third crazy campaign in a row. The 2016 campaign, Trump is a newcomer, completely blowing up politics. 2020, the COVID campaign, Trump's still involved. And now Trump's involved a third time. And we've already seen, an unprecedented effort to get a party's nominee off the ticket by their supporters, just a couple of weeks before the convention. You saw shoes dropping right and left. You saw the dismissal of the documents case on the first day. Now it's going to be appealed. And then you saw the sentencing on a felony, 34 felony counts of a major party nominee.
But with the sentencing delayed because of a U.S. Supreme Court decision.
Correct. Yes, right. And that too. And, these are things that they just happen. And I think there are just going to be more things to happen that we can't even imagine now.
Yeah. Kate, what's your sense? Is there, from talking to delegates and whatnot, I think that there was this unification factor, but I think that these are the activists. These are the people that they go to the doors and they do all the stuff that it takes to win elections. Did you sense from them that they know that there's a lot of hard work ahead?
Yeah, I did. Generally, like the people I was speaking to on the floor last night when I was asking about the, overconfidence issue, they were really saying, things like we're not focused on whatever the Democrats are doing, we're focused on getting out the vote as much as possible. So, I think they have listened to what the state GOP is saying, and they do realize, probably from past experience in elections that they can't really take anything for granted and that it's going to be really close.
So, Torian, I'm going to give you the last word here. What's your thoughts about this week in time? Whether this is like we're going to look back and say this is a pivotal week, or is there just so much to come that who the heck knows?
I think it's going to be very hard to top what 5-7 days that we've had, this past week, between the assassination attempt, between the convention, and I think the convention showed or really demonstrated the enthusiasm gap that we're seeing between the parties. Um, I can't think of another person, and Lou pointed it out. Donald Trump has been a part of these three crazy cycles because he is this a firebrand. He's inspired Republicans, or this new age of Republicans, to support him more so than the conservative platform. And I think a lot of people would point to Obama as this really influential figure, but I don't remember seeing people dressed up as Obama during his runs for office. But yeah, between the legal woes, between some of the bigger events that have happened, it'd be hard to say that it won't get even crazier or more interesting and exciting. But also, uh, it feels like the election is tomorrow, but we have so many months still left to go. Um, I think conventionally people would say, well, there's always the October surprise. We'll see what happens in October, but I'm just bracing myself at this point. We've lived through so many unprecedented times in just one year.
Well, I mean, it could well be a July surprise with perhaps more surprises to come in August, September, October, even November, because there's a pretty good chance now that Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee. So we'll have Kamala Harris on the top of the ticket, who's well known,
So
but
you're sure that it's going to be Kamala Harris?
no. Oh, sorry. Fair point. I think it's the likeliest option. I would not rule out the possibility they have some sort of mini, primary. I'm not sure that would be their best path, because it's disruptive enough to switch nominees. But at least she has been on a national ticket before, and it sort of prevents a lot of intra-party grumbling. But so if that happens, then there's going to be a slot for the VP, who's a complete mystery now. We don't even have finalists because we don't know who the top of the ticket's going to be, and how you would want to balance that. It would be just one more crazy thing in this crazy election for the Republicans to have 4 days of criticizing Joe Biden, and then a few days later, turns out he's not even the nominee anymore. So this platform for 4 days, national television coverage, it could be that they can't leverage that against the actual nominee. It's just a crazy situation.
Yeah, I guess Biden was not supposed to mention. Trump last night was not supposed to mention Biden, but he mentioned him twice. He couldn't help himself.
Right.
Okay, well, I hope we can do this again. I think we covered the territory as we need to at this moment. So I want to thank Lou Jacobson, a veteran political writer with U.S. News, PolitiFact, and Sabato's Crystal Ball. I want to thank Taurean Small, who's a national correspondent for CBS News, and of course, I want to thank Kate Morton, the WisPolitics reporter. Thanks, everybody. Good luck on the campaign trail. This is Capital Chats closing off for now, and we'll see you next time.